Hi, everybody. It's Tim Hagan from Progress Coaching, and I'm your narrator today for Sales and Marketing Management Magazine. Welcome to Sales Leadership Conversations. And today we're going to be interviewing Mike Carroll from Intelligent Conversations, giving us insight of today's trends in the marketplace as it relates to sales and sales leadership. Welcome, Mike.
Hey, thanks, Tim. Thanks for inviting me.
So tell us a little bit about Intelligent Conversations.
Sure, I'll try not to bore you to death. So we started our company in 2004. We sort of focus on that middle market space. So I would say companies with annual revenue between like 20 million up to 250. We've certainly had clients smaller than that, and we have some clients, bigger than that. We've worked with like American Express and some real big heavy hitters, but most of our clients are in that middle market, 50 to 100 million space, more broadly that 20 to 250 space. And where we focus is on companies who have large ticket, complex sales processes, typically longer sales cycles, and companies who have a direct sales organization. We've certainly dabbled in companies who go business to consumer. We actually had one client that was like a retail jewelry store. I don't need to do retail sales training ever again, but I did it once, so I can say I can check that box. Most of our clients are selling like industrial pumps and filters and SaaS software and things that are larger ticket, more complex. We have the biggest impact when they have a direct sales organization. Sometimes we find ourselves in channel conversations or people who use distributors, and we can certainly dabble in that, but it's a lot harder to move the needle with that kind of a model. Where we really focus is on those direct sales teams.
Cool. So what are some of the things you're seeing now as it relates to the last 12 months? Obviously, we've gone from a world that now we're in this new virtual selling world or a hybrid world. What are some of the things that you're seeing and some of the suggestions you would make to sales organizations?
So, starting in 2004, we've been through a few economic cycles, right? We had the crash in 2008. We had sort of the long, slow recovery. Then we had things just roaring, and then the pandemic hit and everything kind of ground to a halt. When the pandemic hit, I lost about 35% of my monthly recurring revenue, and it was all from clients that you would expect would stop. Clients that were in the conference and event space, or I had a large client that was in the concert, like the big, rock and roll concert kind of space as a supplier into that. So those all stopped. Couple of trends that I'm seeing that have changed. Number one, it's important for salespeople to be able to connect with people in video and on the phone, right? And it's tougher to get people on the phone because everyone's working remote. And if you're calling, the old switchboard, or you're trying to call their office, they may or may not tell you their cell number, right? So you've got to be creative in terms of how you're doing your outreach. The people who are absolutely devastated by this, and I call them, the guys, the fat white guys who just drove their pickup trucks around. I had a client that was like an electrical distributor. Their whole day was just getting in their truck and driving from job site to job site, pulling out the blueprints on the hood of the truck, talking about what they need. Guess who's taking those sales now? It's usually like somebody in their 20s, a BDR who's calling a procurement person at that construction company. And, instead of taking them out for chicken wings and talking about what other parts they're going to buy, those guys are really having a hard time adapting.
Yeah.
So the way that they're approaching the market is certainly different. The other key difference from a talent perspective, we work with a lot of clients who struggle to hire effective salespeople. It's a common complaint, a mediocre salesperson can out interview a really good HR manager. And so, we see lots of frustration in the market around that. There's talent available right now.
Sure.
12 months ago, the big issue that hiring managers face is I can't get anyone to apply. All the good ones are gone. Well, because of the economic turmoil and the fact that it's hit the economy in a disparate way. Not all industries are affected by this. Some industries, construction and others, are really thriving. There's talent available. So one of the big differences we see companies making is investing in their team and upgrading their sales team. So a couple differences in terms of how people are approaching the market, and then how HR and sales leaders are attracting new talent and doubling down on that growth strategy.
So when you think about sales leaders today, what are some of the things that you would encourage sales leaders to do to navigate these new waters? Because obviously skill requirements have changed, behavioral requirements have changed. What are some of the suggestions you would make to sales leaders for the current environment today?
I mean, and I don't know if it's changed a whole lot. I think it's more important today, but it's the same thing I would have recommended 12 months ago. Sales managers need to spend at least 50% of their time in coaching conversations. And most don't, Or they'll say, well, I have conversations all the time. I'm coaching my team all the time. Often what that means is they're walking around saying, hey, what's going on? Where's this deal? Where's that deal? Most coaching conversations tend to be pipeline review calls,
Right.
and the focus is only on the bottom of the pipeline. What deals can I help you close this week? What deals can I help you close this month? Let's go. And that's not really productive in terms of growing and elevating the overall effectiveness of your team. So slowing down, having weekly structured coaching conversations. It's not micromanagement, it's just budgeting the time to say, tell me about your week. And then changing it up. Some weeks I say, I might say, hey, tell me about a deal you're really excited about, or tell me about a call that was an absolute disaster. Where did it go off the rails? What happened? And do a deep dive on a couple of deals, shift it around, but spend that time coaching and not just doing pipeline reviews and sort of got-a-minute coaching. Really budget the time and invest the time in that coaching for development mindset rather than just telling them what to do.
I love that. So what are some of the things, 2 or 3 areas where you think salespeople need to navigate differently than they did 12 months ago?
Persistent follow-up, right? I think that because of the way the workforce is now working remotely, you need to be tenacious. Most salespeople will go through their list. They'll call once or twice. They'll say, hey, I called the whole list. We need a better list. Listen, and also list quality is deteriorated because people are turning over and there's some turmoil in the economy. So the list accuracy has suffered a little bit. And, if your salespeople aren't trying 10, 12, 15 times and changing how they do it. So it's not just, I called once and left a message. I called a second time and now I'm done. It's calling multiple times without leaving a message, then leaving a message and being very brief, then sending a text, then sending a video email or a video message on your phone, or recording a voice memo and sending it as a text if you have their cell number. It's being creative, contacting them through LinkedIn, other things. You've got to really be tenacious and persistent, not obnoxious, but you've got to be politely persistent and understand, even under people who are raising their hands saying, I want to talk to you, it may take 10 or 12 attempts to get them on the phone and actually schedule a conversation. So number one is that tenacity and that persistent follow-up. The second thing is slowing down during the discovery phase, right? I think there are so many salespeople who can't contain themselves when they finally get in front of a potential buyer. They just show up and throw up and they can't wait to tell you all about their great product. And where the sale really happens is when they slow down and they look at it from the prospect's point of view. And they ask questions about, how would this impact your process? How would this impact your current situation? And the more you can explore the gap between where they are now and where they could be were they to implement your product or service or solution, that's where the magic happens. And I see so many salespeople who kind of skip right past that.
Sure.
And then the last thing I would say is it's really important to be organized and to have detailed follow-up. Ending every conversation, even if it's a terrible call and they're like, we don't want you, we don't want to ever hear from you again, ending every conversation with a clear next step and a time-bound covenant. And that time-bound covenant for someone who's saying, no, not now, maybe not ever, is no problem. Let me check back in a couple of quarters and see what's changed. And I think if salespeople form the habit of ending every meeting with a clear next step and even putting an appointment to it if they can, or a time frame by when they're going to call back. The other thing I like to do, and of course with the pandemic, it's got it all mixed up, but I like to be a little unconventional in when that follow-up date is. I'm a sports nerd, as you know, so I might say, hey, right around the All-Star break, if it's a normal baseball season, or I'll call you right after the Masters. This year, the Masters was in October. I'm all screwed up now. I keep using that as an example for April follow-ups, and now it's like in October. So hopefully we'll get back on track. But that's more memorable than let me call you in 2 months, right? So you try and connect it to that. And then you call them the Monday after the Masters and say, can you believe that win, whoever wins, right? And it gives you a way to kind of break the ice. So those are the 3 areas: consistent follow-up, really slowing down on discovery, and then good record keeping and ending every conversation with a clear next step. If salespeople do those things, even in the economic headwinds that we're facing now, they're going to continue to make progress and produce good results.
Aren't those the very areas that sales leaders need to coach into?
100%, right? So, and actually, that's not a bad framework for a manager to focus on as they're kind of breaking down. again, I think a lot of sales managers just focus on the bottom of the funnel, but you've got to feed the top of the funnel as well and talk about that consistent prospecting. Are they focusing on the right lists? Are they calling the right titles or functional roles that can make decisions? A lot of times salespeople will call where they're comfortable rather than where they need to call, right? So they may call the manager instead of the CEO. It's a heck of a lot easier if the CEO refers you down to the manager than starting at the manager where you face a lot of resistance. So
Right.
yeah, those are all areas that the manager should be coaching to as well, 100%.
So tell our friends at SMM Connect, how does somebody get a hold of your company?
So would love to invite you to visit intelligentconversations.com, right? We've got tons of resources on that. We've got a little video explaining sort of our approach to how we analyze the sales team and how we then diagnose where their opportunities for growth are, and then what the journey might be. We've got a bunch of free tools. I think we'll include a link here on some different tools that you can access and resources that are available. And all my contact information is up there as well. So just go to intelligentconversations.com and let's give us a call. We'll try and have one.
Cool. And I would tell our audience, if you haven't seen Mike deliver one of the webinars at SMM Connect, they're fantastic. And I would encourage you to reach out to the company. Definitely check out some of his webinars at upcoming dates for SMM Connect. Thanks for your time, Mike.
Thank you, Tim. Thank you, everyone.